My wife was planning a surprise for my birthday. I just didn't expect subpoenas. I should have known something was wrong when Diane actually smiled at me over breakfast. Real smiles from my wife had become rarer than honest politicians. But there she was, practically glowing as she buttered her gluten-free toast with the precision of a surgeon. "Happy birthday, darling," she purred, sliding an envelope across our marble kitchen island. "Your first present." The envelope felt heavier than birthday cards usually do. Much heavier. I tore it open while Diane watched me like a cat watches a wounded mouse, her perfectly manicured fingers drumming against her coffee mug. Divorce papers. 45 years old today, and my loving wife of 18 years was serving me with a lawsuit that demanded everything. The house, the cars, the business, full custody of Ethan, and enough alimony to fund a small country's defense budget. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost Reddit Stories GG so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. "Surprise," Diane said, her smile turning razor sharp. I thought it was time for a fresh start. I looked up from the papers to study my wife's face. She'd had work done again, subtle this time, just enough to erase the laugh lines we'd earned together during happier years. Her blonde hair was styled in that expensive way that looked effortless but probably cost more than most people's rent. She was beautiful, I had to admit. Cold as a mortician's handshake, but beautiful. "This is quite the gift, Diane," I said, keeping my voice level. "Very thoughtful. Though I have to ask, when exactly did you find time to plan this between your charity committee meetings and your evening yoga classes?" Her smile flickered for just a moment. "I don't know what you're implying, Connor." "I'm not implying anything. I'm stating facts. Like the fact that your yoga instructor Sergio seems to require a lot of private sessions. Very private, very long sessions." Diane's coffee mug hit the marble with a sharp crack. "You're being paranoid and ridiculous." "Am I? Because I've been doing some math. And your Tuesday and Thursday yoga sessions have been running about 3 hours longer than actual yoga classes. Unless you're practicing some very advanced positions." "You're disgusting," she snapped, but her face had gone pale under her foundation. I folded the divorce papers carefully and slipped them back into the envelope. "You know what, Diane? You're absolutely right about needing a fresh start. In fact, I think this whole town could use one." Something in my tone must have warned her because she took a step back. "What do you mean?" I reached into my jacket pocket and pulled out my own envelope. Thick manila, sealed with the kind of care usually reserved for evidence. I mean, timing is everything in architecture, just like in marriage. You build on a solid foundation or everything comes crashing down. "What is that?" "Insurance," I said, standing up and straightening my tie. "See? While you were busy with your evening yoga, I was busy being a good husband. The kind who notices things, the kind who documents things, the kind who keeps very detailed records." Diane's hand moved to her throat, a nervous gesture I remembered from our early dating days, back when she actually felt emotions like guilt and shame. "You're bluffing." "Am I? Tell me. Does Sergio know about the others? Because there have been others, haven't there? That tennis pro from the country club last summer, the personal trainer before Sergio, that artist you met at the gallery opening. What was his name? Leon? He had such talented hands. According to your text messages." Her face went white. "You went through my phone?" "I went through everything, Diane. Phones, emails, credit card statements, hotel receipts. You'd be amazed what a man can discover when his wife starts treating him like furniture. 18 years of marriage. And you thought I'd just roll over and play dead while you and your wine-swilling coven of friends carved up my life like a Thanksgiving turkey?" I walked toward the front door, pausing to admire the house we'd built together. Floor-to-ceiling windows, custom millwork, every detail perfect. I designed it myself back when I thought we were building something permanent. "Where are you going?" Diane's voice had lost its confident edge. "To work. I have a business to run. At least until your lawyers try to steal that too." I opened the door, then turned back. "Oh, and Diane, you might want to call your mother. She's going to be very interested in what I'm planning to share with the Oakdale Garden Society ladies this afternoon." "Connor, wait." But I was already walking to my car, whistling "Happy Birthday" under my breath. Behind me, I heard Diane's phone start ringing as she frantically called someone. Probably Sergio, possibly her lawyer. Definitely not her mother. Not yet. The morning air felt crisp against my face as I drove through our neighborhood, past the manicured lawns and perfectly appointed homes where my soon-to-be ex-wife's friends lived their carefully curated lives. These women had watched my marriage crumble with the enthusiasm of spectators at a gladiator fight, whispering behind their wine glasses about poor Connor and his wandering wife. They had no idea what was coming. My architectural firm occupied the top floor of a converted warehouse downtown, with views of the marina that usually helped clear my head. Today, though, I wasn't interested in the scenery. I had work to do. I'd been preparing for this day for months, ever since I'd first noticed the changes in Diane's behavior. The late nights, the secretive phone calls, the way she'd started treating me like an inconvenience in my own home. I'm an architect. I notice when foundations start to crack. The manila envelope sat on my desk like a loaded weapon. Inside were photographs, printouts of text messages, credit card statements showing hotel charges and expensive dinners at restaurants we'd never been to together. 18 months of careful documentation, all leading to this moment. My phone buzzed. A text from my son Ethan, away at boarding school. "Happy birthday, Dad. Mom said you guys had big news to share." Poor kid. 17 years old and about to learn that his mother was a cheating, manipulative social climber who'd rather destroy our family than admit her mistakes. I'd have to tell him eventually, but not today. Today was about setting the stage for everything that would follow. Another buzz. This time, it was a number I didn't recognize. "Mr. Blackwell, this is David Pratt from Pemberton Associates. Mrs. Blackwell has retained our services for her divorce proceedings. I'd like to schedule a meeting to discuss settlement terms." I laughed out loud. Diane was moving fast, probably hoping to catch me off guard and confused. She'd always underestimated me, treating me like the boring, predictable husband who'd never fight back. That was her first mistake. David Pratt looked exactly like I'd expected. Young, expensive suit, the kind of confident smirk that comes from winning too many cases against unprepared opponents. He'd requested this meeting at his downtown office, probably to intimidate me with marble floors and leather-bound law books. "Mr. Blackwell," he said, not bothering to stand when his secretary showed me in. "Thank you for coming. I think we can resolve this matter quickly and amicably." "I'm sure you do." I settled into the chair across from his massive desk, taking my time to look around his office. Awards on the walls, photos with local politicians, the whole power player setup. Nice place, very impressive. Must cost a fortune to maintain. "Mrs. Blackwell has made her position clear," Pratt continued, sliding a document across the desk. "These are our terms for settlement. As you can see, she's being quite reasonable." I glanced at the paper without picking it up. Reasonable. That's an interesting word choice. Let me see. She wants the house, the business, full custody, and 70% of our assets. In exchange for what exactly? A quiet, dignified divorce. No messy publicity. No drawn-out court battles. You keep your reputation intact. She gets a fresh start. Everyone wins. "Everyone except me, you mean?" Pratt's smile widened. "Mr. Blackwell, I understand this is emotional, but let's be practical. Your wife has grounds for divorce based on your behavior issues. Mental cruelty, emotional neglect, possible financial impropriety. These things have a way of becoming public knowledge during litigation." "Behavior issues," I repeated slowly. "That's fascinating. Tell me, did Diane mention her own behavior during your consultation? Her hobbies, for instance?" Something flickered in Pratt's eyes. "I'm not sure what you're implying." "I'm not implying anything. I'm being direct, which seems to be a lost art in your profession." I reached into my briefcase and pulled out my own manila envelope. "See, David. Can I call you David?" I've been doing some research too, and I've discovered some very interesting things about my wife's extracurricular activities. I opened the envelope and spread several photographs across his desk. High-resolution images of Diane entering and leaving Sergio's apartment building. Diane and Sergio at restaurants across town. Diane and Sergio in what appeared to be a very intimate conversation in the parking lot of the Radisson. Pratt's confident expression cracked. "These prove nothing. Circumstantial at best." "You're right. Photographs can be misleading. That's why I brought audio files too." I placed a small digital recorder on his desk and pressed play. Diane's voice filled the office crystal clear. "Connor is such a fool. He actually thinks I'm at book club tonight. God, Sergio, the way he looks at me with those puppy dog eyes like he still thinks we're some happy couple. It's pathetic. Sergio's voice responded. When are you going to tell him? After the divorce is final, let him find out the hard way that he's been supporting my real relationship for the past year and a half. The look on his face will be priceless. I stopped the recording and looked at Pratt, whose face had gone pale. That was recorded 3 weeks ago in Sergio's apartment. Amazing what you can hear through thin walls when you know where to listen. This could be inadmissible. Could be. But it doesn't matter, does it? Because we both know this isn't going to court. I gathered up the photographs and slipped them back into the envelope. See, David, your client made a crucial error. She assumed I was the same passive, trusting husband she's been manipulating for years. She never considered that I might fight back. What do you want? Pratt's voice had lost its earlier confidence. Nothing complicated. I want Diane to withdraw her divorce petition. I want her to move out of my house. And I want her to explain to our son why she's destroying our family for a Pilates instructor with commitment issues and a cocaine habit. Cocaine habit? Oh, did she not mention that? Sergio has quite the expensive hobby. Amazing what people will tell you when they think you're just another boring suburban dad. His dealer is very chatty, especially when he's worried about getting paid. I stood up and straightened my jacket. You have 48 hours to convince your client to see reason. After that, these materials go public, all of them. The photos, the recordings, the financial records showing how she's been using our joint accounts to fund her affairs. Everything. You can't do this. There are laws about privacy. About what? Exposing adultery? Last I checked, that wasn't illegal. Immoral, yes. Grounds for divorce, absolutely. But not illegal. I headed for the door, then paused. Oh, and David, you might want to ask Mrs. Blackwell about her mother's reaction when she finds out. Dorothy Ashford has spent 60 years building her reputation in this town. I wonder how she'll feel when she learns her daughter has been making her a laughingstock at every charity function and garden party. I left Pratt sitting in his expensive office, staring at the digital recorder like it might explode. The elevator ride down felt like a victory lap. Diane had wanted to play hardball, assuming I'd crumble under pressure. She'd forgotten that architects don't just design buildings. We plan for disasters. My phone rang as I reached the parking garage, Diane's number. Connor, what have you done? Her voice was shrill, panicked. Happy birthday to me, I said cheerfully. How was your morning, dear? Did you enjoy your meeting with Mr. Pratt? He called me. He said you've been spying on me. Spying is such an ugly word. I prefer conducting due diligence. It's what any good businessman does before entering into negotiations. You can't do this to me, to us. Think about Ethan. I am thinking about Ethan. I'm thinking about how he'll feel when he learns his mother threw away 18 years of marriage for a man who sells his body for a living and snorts his profits up his nose. Silence on the other end, then quietly. What do you want? I want you to come home. I want you to sit down with me and have an honest conversation about our marriage, and I want you to end things with Sergio today, permanently. And if I don't, I got into my car and started the engine. Then tomorrow morning, everyone in this town will know exactly what kind of woman you really are. Your friends, your mother, your precious social circle. They'll all know that Diane Blackwell is nothing more than a cheating housewife who couldn't keep her legs closed or her mouth shut. You bastard. I'm a bastard who's been paying for your lifestyle while you screwed around behind my back. But I'm a bastard with evidence, Diane, and I'm not afraid to use it. I hung up and drove home, feeling better than I had in months. The house looked different now. Less like a prison, more like a fortress. Diane's car was in the driveway, and I could see her silhouette in the living room window, pacing back and forth like a caged animal. This was just the beginning. Diane had started a war, but she'd forgotten one crucial detail. I was the one who'd built the battlefield. Every room in this house, every detail of our life together, I'd designed it all. I knew every weakness, every pressure point, every way to bring it all crashing down. She wanted a fresh start? Fine. But she was going to learn that sometimes, when you burn bridges, you get trapped on the wrong side of the fire. Diane was waiting for me in the living room, perched on the edge of our white leather sofa like she was ready to bolt at any moment. She'd changed clothes since morning. Gone was the casual confidence, replaced by a black dress that screamed funeral appropriate. How fitting. We need to talk, she said without preamble. Yes, we do. I poured myself a scotch from the bar cart, deliberately not offering her one. Would you like to start, or should I? This has gone far enough, Connor. Whatever game you're playing. Game, I laughed, and the sound was harsh enough to make her flinch. Diane, this isn't a game. Games have rules and fair play and good sportsmanship. This is war. You fired the first shot this morning with those divorce papers. Everything that happens next is just me returning fire. She stood up, smoothing down her dress with nervous hands. I made mistakes, okay? I admit that. But we can work through this. We can go to counseling. We can what? Pretend the last 18 months didn't happen? Pretend you didn't spend our anniversary in a hotel room with Sergio while I sat at home waiting for you to come back from your girls' night out? Her face went pale. How did you... The Radisson downtown, room 412. You charged dinner to our joint credit card. Surf and turf for two. A bottle of champagne. Late checkout the next morning. Did you really think I wouldn't notice a $300 hotel charge on our anniversary? Diane sank back onto the sofa, her carefully constructed composure finally cracking. Connor, please, think about what you're doing. Think about Ethan. About our life together. About your reputation. About your mother's standing in the community. About your precious wine club friends and their opinions. I took a sip of scotch, savoring both the burn and the look of panic in her eyes. I've thought about all of that, Diane. In fact, I've thought about very little else for the past 6 months. 6 months? That's when I first suspected. You remember that night in March, when you came home with your lipstick smudged and your story about Monica's car breaking down? I called Monica the next morning to ask if she needed help with repairs. Imagine my surprise when she told me you'd never been at her house. Diane's hands were shaking now. You've been checking up on me for 6 months? I've been protecting myself for 6 months. There's a difference. I sat down across from her close enough to see the fear in her eyes. See? I know you, Diane. I know how your mind works. You don't do anything without an exit strategy, without a plan to come out on top. So when you started acting strange, when you started treating me like an inconvenience instead of a husband, I knew something was coming. I never meant for it to happen this way. Which part? The cheating or the getting caught? She flinched. The cheating. I never meant to hurt you. But you did mean to divorce me. You did mean to take everything I've worked for and leave me with nothing. You did mean to turn our son against me and paint me as the villain in your little fairy tale. I leaned forward. So forgive me, if I don't believe your sudden attack of conscience. My phone buzzed with a text message. Ethan again. Dad, Mom's not answering her phone. Is everything okay? I showed Diane the screen. He's worried about you. Our son is hundreds of miles away trying to focus on his senior year, and he's worried because he can sense something's wrong. How do you think he's going to feel when he learns the truth? Don't. Her voice was barely a whisper. Don't tell him. Please. He doesn't need to know about Sergio. About Sergio? What about the others, Diane? What about Leon the artist? What about Derek the tennis pro? What about that bartender from the country club? What was his name? Tyler? Travis? Each name hit her like a physical blow. How do you know about... I know about all of them. Every hotel room, every restaurant, every lie you told to cover your tracks. I know about the credit cards you thought I didn't monitor. I know about the burner phone you keep in your gym bag. I know about the apartment you've been looking at downtown, the one you plan to move into after you'd finished destroying my life. Diane was crying now, mascara running down her cheeks in dark streams. I'm sorry. God, Connor. I'm so sorry. I don't know what happened to me. I don't know why I know why. I stood up and walked to the window, looking out at our perfectly manicured neighborhood. You got bored. You got tired of being married to a boring architect who worked long hours and didn't worship at the altar of your ego. You wanted excitement, adventure, the thrill of being desired by younger men who told you what you wanted to hear. That's not... It's exactly that. I turned back to face her. And you know what the really sad part is? I would have given you a divorce if you'd just been honest. If you'd come to me 2 years ago and said you weren't happy, that you wanted something different, I would have been hurt, but I would have understood. We could have split everything fairly, worked out custody arrangements, stayed friends for Ethan's sake. We still can. No, we can't. Because you didn't want fair. You wanted everything. You wanted to punish me for the crime of loving you, of trusting you, of building a life with you that apparently wasn't exciting enough for your tastes. I finished my scotch and set the glass down with deliberate care. So now you get to live with the consequences of your choices. All of them. What does that mean? It means war, Diane. Total war. You wanted to destroy my life? Fine. But I'm going to destroy yours first, and I'm going to enjoy every minute of it. Her phone rang. She glanced at the screen, and her face went even paler. It's my mother. Answer it, I said. Tell her you'll call her back. Tell her you're busy. Tell her whatever you want. But know this. By tomorrow morning, Dorothy Ashford is going to know exactly what kind of daughter she raised. Diane let the call go to voicemail, but we could both hear her mother's voice through the speaker. Diane, dear. I just had the most disturbing conversation with Greta Feldman. She said there are rumors going around about you and some fitness instructor. Call me immediately. I smiled. Faster than I expected. Greta must have seen us at Pratt's office this afternoon. You know how she loves to gossip. Connor, please. My mother's reputation will survive, just like she has for 60 years. But yours won't. Not after I'm finished. I headed for the stairs, then paused at the bottom step. Oh, and Diane, I'd start looking for somewhere else to stay. You have until Sunday to move out. After that, I'm changing the locks. You can't kick me out of my own house? Actually, I can. The house is in my name. Remember, you insisted on keeping your maiden name when we got married. Said it was more professional for your event planning business. Funny how that decision is coming back to bite you now. I left her sitting in the living room, probably calculating her options and finding them all equally unpalatable. Upstairs in my office, I opened my laptop and began typing the first of several emails that would set tomorrow's events in motion. The war had officially begun, and unlike my naive, trusting wife, I'd been planning this campaign for months. Every move calculated, every contingency considered, every weakness identified and cataloged for future use. Diane had wanted to play games with my life. Now she was going to learn that some games have consequences that last forever. Sunday morning arrived with the kind of crisp autumn weather that made our coastal town look like a postcard. Perfect day for the farmer's market where half the town would gather to buy overpriced organic vegetables and catch up on the latest gossip. I'd been looking forward to this particular Sunday for weeks. Diane had spent the weekend packing her belongings with the grim efficiency of a refugee fleeing a war zone. She'd barely spoken to me since our confrontation Thursday night, communicating mostly through terse notes left on the kitchen counter about logistics and scheduling. I need more time, she said as I found her in the bedroom, folding clothes into suitcase number 4. Time for what? To find a place. To figure things out. Sergio's apartment it's not suitable for extended stays. I leaned against the doorframe, watching her pack the expensive dresses I'd bought for various charity functions and anniversary dinners. Trouble in paradise already? Don't be smug, Connor. It doesn't suit you. Neither does adultery. But that didn't stop you. I checked my watch. You have 2 hours. After that, the locks get changed whether you're finished or not. Where am I supposed to go? That's not my problem anymore. You made your choice when you decided to blow up our marriage. Live with it. She turned to face me, and for a moment I saw a flash of the woman I'd married. Vulnerable, uncertain, almost human. What happened to us, Connor? We used to be happy. We were never happy, Diane. We were comfortable. There's a difference. I pushed off from the doorframe. Happy couples don't cheat. Happy couples don't lie to each other for 18 months. Happy couples don't serve divorce papers as birthday presents. I know I made mistakes. Mistakes are forgetting anniversaries or leaving the milk out overnight. What you did was deliberate, calculated betrayal. Own it. My phone buzzed with a text from my friend Nathan. Farmer's market in 20. You ready for this? I smiled and typed back, Born ready. Diane saw my expression. What are you planning? Nothing dramatic. Just a little community outreach. I headed for the door. Don't forget to leave your house keys on the counter when you go. The farmer's market was in full swing when I arrived, the town square buzzing with the kind of casual social interaction that made small towns both charming and dangerous. Information traveled fast here, especially the kind that involved scandal and betrayal. I spotted my first target immediately. Monica Hargrove, Diane's supposed best friend, and the unofficial queen bee of the local gossip network. She was examining organic tomatoes with the intensity of a forensic scientist, her perfectly styled gray hair catching the morning sunlight. "Monica," I called out, approaching with my most charming smile. She turned, and I caught the brief flicker of uncertainty in her eyes before she managed her social smile. "Connor, how are you holding up, dear? I heard things have been difficult. Difficult is one word for it." I picked up a tomato and examined it thoughtfully. Though I have to say, there's something liberating about finally knowing the truth. About everything. The truth about Diane's extracurricular activities. About the lies, the hotel rooms, the credit card charges. About how long it's been going on, and who knew about it. I met her eyes directly. You'd be amazed what people will tell you when they think you're just the clueless husband. Monica's face went pale. "Connor, I don't know what you think you know, but I know about the girls' nights that weren't girls' nights. I know about the cover stories you helped create. I know about the conversations where you all laughed about poor, stupid Connor and his wandering wife." I set down the tomato and stepped closer. "I know you knew, Monica. The question is, what are you going to do about it now?" I never meant for anyone to get hurt. But people did get hurt. I got hurt. My son got hurt. And now, everyone else gets to hurt too. I glanced around the market, noting how many people were within earshot. "See, Monica, the thing about secrets is that they're only valuable as long as they stay secret. Once they're out in the open, they become weapons. What do you want? I want you to tell me about Sergio, about how long you've known, about what you really think of a woman who destroys her family for a Pilates instructor with a drug problem and a history of sleeping with his clients." Monica looked around frantically, realizing that our conversation was attracting attention. "Connor, please, not here. Here is perfect. Here's where Diane built her reputation, where she played the role of devoted wife and mother while she was screwing half the town behind my back. Here is where everyone gets to learn the truth." "The truth about what?" I turned to find Greta Feldman approaching, her eyes bright with curiosity. "Perfect timing. Greta, just the person I wanted to see." I smiled warmly. "I was just telling Monica about Diane's new living situation. Have you met Sergio Reyes? Lovely young man, very flexible." Greta's eyebrows shot up. "Sergio Reyes, the instructor from that boutique fitness place?" "The very same. Diane's been taking private lessons with him for quite some time now. Very intensive training. She's learned positions I didn't even know existed." Monica made a strangled sound. "Connor, stop." "Stop what? Telling the truth? Sharing the news about my wife's new hobby?" I looked directly at Greta. "Did you know that Sergio specializes in one-on-one instruction? Very hands-on approach. Diane's been seeing him twice a week for over a year now, sometimes more, when she needs extra attention." Greta was practically vibrating with excitement. This was better than Christmas morning for the town's premier gossip distributor. "I had no idea Diane was so dedicated to fitness," she said carefully. "Oh, she's very dedicated. Committed, you might say. In fact, she's so committed that she's moving in with her instructor. Today, actually. Isn't that wonderful? True love conquers all. Even marriage vows and family obligations." "Moving in?" Greta's voice had gone up an octave. "Well, she's certainly moving out of our house. Where she goes from there is between her and Sergio, and whoever else she's been training with recently." I glanced at my watch. "Speaking of which, I should get home. The locksmith is coming this afternoon, and I want to make sure everything is secure." I walked away, leaving Monica and Greta staring after me in shock. Behind me, I could hear Greta's voice rising with excitement as she began spreading the news to anyone within earshot. Phase 1 complete. My phone rang as I reached my car. Diane's number. "What have you done?" Her voice was shaking with rage. "I've had a lovely morning at the farmer's market. Beautiful day, isn't it? Monica just called me. She said you were telling people about Sergio, about us moving in together. Aren't you moving in together?" I thought that was the plan. True love, fresh starts, all that romantic nonsense. You know it's not that simple. Sergio's place is temporary, just until I can find something permanent. How romantic. Nothing says happily ever after like a temporary living arrangement with your personal trainer. I got into my car and started the engine. By the way, you might want to call your mother. Greta Feldman is probably dialing her number as we speak. Connor, please, you have to stop this. You're destroying everything. I'm not destroying anything, Diane. I'm just sharing the truth. If the truth is destructive, maybe you should have thought about that before you started living a lie. I hung up and drove home, whistling cheerfully. The house felt different already. Lighter, cleaner, like a weight had been lifted from its foundation. Diane's car was gone from the driveway along with most of her belongings. She'd left her keys on the kitchen counter as requested, along with a note. This isn't over. I crumpled up the note and tossed it in the trash. She was right, of course. This wasn't over. This was just the beginning. I had plans for Diane and Sergio. Big plans. And by the time I was finished, they'd both understand exactly what it meant to cross Connor Blackwell. Monday morning brought the first real consequences of my farmer's market performance. My phone had been buzzing since dawn, with calls from numbers I didn't recognize. Reporters I realized from the local paper and even a few regional outlets. Apparently the story of a prominent local architect's wife running off with her fitness instructor was exactly the kind of small-town scandal that sold newspapers. I ignored most of the calls, but I did answer when I saw Nathan's number. Jesus, Connor, he said without preamble. You really went nuclear, didn't you? I went honest. There's a difference. The whole town's talking about it. My wife heard it from 3 different people at the grocery store this morning. Diane's mother supposedly locked herself in her house and won't answer the phone. Dorothy always did have a flair for drama. This isn't drama, man. This is social suicide. For all of them. Nathan paused. I hope you know what you're doing. I know exactly what I'm doing. What I was doing, specifically, was sitting in my car outside Sergio's apartment building, waiting for him to emerge for his morning run. I'd been watching his routine for weeks. He was nothing if not predictable. Every day at 7:30 a.m., he'd come jogging out in his expensive athletic wear, following the same route through downtown and back. Today was going to be different. At exactly 7:31, Sergio appeared, looking considerably less confident than usual. His normally perfect hair was disheveled, and he kept glancing around nervously as he started his warm-up stretches. I got out of my car and walked over to him. Sergio, good morning. Beautiful day for a run, isn't it? He spun around, his face going pale when he saw me. Connor, what are you doing here? Thought we should have a chat, man to man. You know, clear the air about a few things. Sergio took a step back. Look, I know this is awkward, but Diane and I, what we have is real. We're not trying to hurt anyone. I laughed, and the sound made him flinch. Not trying to hurt anyone. Sergio, you've been screwing my wife for over a year. In my bed, in hotels I paid for, probably in your little love nest upstairs. How exactly is that not trying to hurt anyone? Sergio's jaw tightened. It's not like that. No? Then what's it like? Enlighten me. Explain how seducing married women is actually a noble profession. Diane came to me. She was unhappy, neglected. Neglected. I stepped closer, and Sergio automatically backed up against a parked car. I gave that woman everything. A beautiful home, financial security, 18 years of my life. The only thing I didn't give her was permission to screw around behind my back. You gave her things. Not attention, not passion, not... The slap echoed off the surrounding buildings like a gunshot. Sergio's head snapped to the side, and when he looked back at me, there was a bright red handprint on his left cheek. That, I said calmly, was for the disrespect. This is for the stupidity. I grabbed the front of his running shirt and shoved him hard against the car. He was younger than me, probably stronger, but he was also shocked and off balance. Let me explain something to you, Sergio. You picked the wrong man's wife to play house with. You picked the wrong family to destroy for your entertainment. And now, you're going to learn what happens when you mess with someone who has nothing left to lose. You're crazy. I'm thorough. There's a difference. I released his shirt and stepped back. See? While you and Diane were playing house, I was doing research. About you, about your business, about your habits. Fear flickered in his eyes. What kind of research? The kind that reveals interesting things about your client list. Married women mostly, wealthy, bored, looking for excitement. You have quite the reputation, don't you? The personal trainer who provides very personal services. That's not... It's exactly true. Mrs. Henderson from Oakdale Heights, Mrs. Rodriguez from the country club, that real estate agent. What's her name? Jennifer. You've been working your way through half the married women in town. Diane was just your latest conquest. Sergio's face had gone white. You can't prove any of that. Can't I? I pulled out my phone and showed him the screen. Amazing what people will tell you when they think their secrets are safe. Mrs. Henderson was very chatty once she realized I knew about her Tuesday afternoon training sessions. Apparently you have quite the creative approach to physical fitness. What do you want? I want you to disappear. Today. Pack up your little business, get out of town, and never contact my wife again. I can't just... You can, and you will. Because if you don't, every one of your clients is going to receive a very detailed dossier about your business practices. Their husbands, too. How long do you think your pretty face will stay pretty when Mr. Henderson finds out what you've been doing with his wife? Sergio was shaking now. This is blackmail. This is consequences. You made a choice to destroy my marriage. Now you get to live with the results. I leaned closer. And Sergio, if I ever see you near my son, if you ever try to contact him or involve him in this mess, I will end you. Not legally, not financially, physically. Do we understand each other? He nodded frantically. Good. I straightened my jacket and smiled. Enjoy your run. I hear the weather's supposed to turn ugly later this week. Might be a good time to start fresh somewhere warmer. I walked back to my car, leaving Sergio standing on the sidewalk looking like he'd been hit by a truck. Phase 2 complete. My phone rang as I drove home. Diane again. What did you do to Sergio? Her voice was hysterical. I had a conversation with him. Very enlightening. He called me crying, Connor. Crying. He said you threatened him, that you know about his other clients. I know about everything, Diane. I told you that. The question is, what are you going to do about it? You can't keep doing this. You can't destroy everyone who... Everyone who what? Everyone who helped you betray our marriage? Everyone who knew what you were doing and said nothing? Everyone who laughed behind my back while you made me look like a fool? I pulled into my driveway. Actually, I can do exactly that. And I will. Connor, please. Sergio's talking about leaving town. He's scared. Good. He should be scared. You should be scared too. Are you threatening me? I'm promising you. This is what happens when you declare war on someone who loves you. This is what you get when you mistake kindness for weakness. I got out of the car and looked up at the house we'd built together. You wanted to destroy my life, Diane. Now you get to watch me destroy yours. I hung up and went inside, feeling better than I had in months. The house was quiet, peaceful. Mine again. No more walking on eggshells. No more pretending everything was fine. No more living with a woman who saw me as nothing more than a paycheck and a convenience. Tomorrow, I'd start phase 3. But tonight, I was going to enjoy the silence and plan my next move. The war was far from over, but I was winning. And I intended to keep winning until there was nothing left of the life Diane had tried to steal from me. The storm hit on Thursday night, just as the weather service had predicted. By 9 p.m., the wind was howling off the harbor and rain was lashing against the windows of my house with the fury of nature unleashed. Perfect weather for what I had planned. I'd been expecting Diane and Sergio to make their move. Desperate people do desperate things, and they were both running out of options. Sergio's client list had evaporated after word spread about his specialized services, and Diane had been effectively blacklisted from every social circle in town. Her mother still wasn't taking her calls, and the few friends who hadn't abandoned her completely were keeping their distance. The security cameras I'd installed earlier in the week showed them approaching through the storm, hunched against the wind and rain like a pair of refugees. They'd parked 2 blocks away, probably thinking they were being clever. I was ready for them. Dad, Ethan's voice came from behind me. He'd come home from boarding school that afternoon, ostensibly for a long weekend, but really because he'd sensed something major was happening. Smart kid. He got that from me. Stay upstairs, I told him. This might get ugly. What's going on? Your mother's about to make some very poor choices again. The front door rattled as someone tried the handle. Then came the sound of a key scraping against metal. They were trying to use Diane's old key, not realizing I'd changed all the locks days ago. I waited until I heard them moving around to the back of the house before I activated the first surprise. The motion-activated sprinkler system I'd rigged up caught them perfectly as they tried to jimmy the back door, high-pressure water mixed with biodegradable paint. Nothing dangerous but extremely effective at marking targets. Their curses were audible even over the storm. "Connor," Diane's voice shrill with rage, "open this door." "Use your key," I called back pleasantly. "You changed the locks." "I changed everything." Amazing what you can accomplish when you're not being lied to and cheated on. More rattling, then the sound of breaking glass. They'd smashed one of the kitchen windows. I'd expected that. It was the most accessible entry point, and also the one I'd prepared most thoroughly for. The paint bomb went off as soon as Sergio's foot hit the kitchen floor, covering both of them in bright orange pigment that would take weeks to wash off completely. The air horn that triggered simultaneously was loud enough to wake the neighbors 3 blocks away. "What the hell?" Sergio's voice muffled by paint and panic. "Welcome to my home," I said, stepping into the kitchen doorway. "So nice of you to drop by. Though I have to say, orange really isn't your color, Sergio." They were both dripping wet and covered in paint, looking like refugees from a particularly violent art installation. Diane's hair was plastered to her head, and Sergio's expensive athletic wear was ruined beyond repair. "You're insane," Diane snarled. "I'm creative. There's a difference." I held up my phone, which was recording everything. "Smile for the camera, you two. This is going to make a wonderful addition to my collection." "Turn that off," Sergio demanded, starting toward me. "I wouldn't if I were you." I pressed a button on the remote in my other hand, and suddenly the house's sound system came to life, broadcasting the audio recording I'd made of Diane and Sergio's most intimate conversations. Their voices filled every room, discussing their affair, mocking me, planning their future together at my expense. "Turn it off!" Diane screamed, lunging for the remote. I stepped aside easily, letting her momentum carry her into the wall. "Why? I thought you want everyone to hear how much in love you are. Isn't that what this is all about? True love conquering all?" "You can't do this to us," Sergio said. But his voice lacked conviction. He was starting to realize just how thoroughly I'd outmaneuvered them. "I'm not doing anything to you. I'm simply sharing the truth with the world. In fact, I'm live streaming this whole conversation to social media. Wave to your audience." Both of them went pale. The idea that their humiliation was being broadcast to potentially thousands of people was clearly more terrifying than any physical threat I could have made. "How many viewers do we have?" I checked my phone. "Oh, wonderful. We're up to 300 and climbing. Look, there's a comment from your mother, Diane. She says, and I quote, 'You've disgraced our family name for the last time.'" Diane's face crumpled. "Connor, please, turn it off. I'll do anything." "Anything? That's interesting because I seem to remember you saying something very similar to Sergio in one of these recordings. What was it again?" "Oh, yes. I'll do anything to get away from that pathetic husband of mine." The storm outside was reaching its peak, and the lights flickered ominously. But inside the house, the real tempest was just beginning. "You want to know what I want?" I continued, circling them like a predator. "I want you to tell everyone watching exactly what kind of people you are. I want you to confess to 18 months of lies and betrayal. I want you to explain to my son why you chose to destroy his family for a man who can't even spell commitment, let alone understand what it means." "Dad," Ethan's voice came from the stairs. He disobeyed my instructions and come down to watch the show. Diane spun around, her face a mask of shame and desperation. "Ethan, honey, this isn't what it looks like." "It looks like you broke into Dad's house covered in paint and dripping wet," Ethan said dryly. He'd inherited my talent for sarcasm. "Also, it looks like you've been cheating on him with that guy." He pointed at Sergio with obvious distaste. "Did you really think Dad wouldn't fight back? Your father is trying to ruin my life. Your life was already ruined. Dad's just making sure everyone knows it." I felt a surge of pride. My son understood exactly what was happening here, and he'd chosen his side without hesitation. "The viewers are up to 800 now," I announced. "This is really taking off. Oh, look, there's a comment from Greta Feldman. About time someone exposed those two. And here's one from Monica. Diane, you brought this on yourself. Looks like your friends have some opinions about your life choices. Sergio, who had been silent for several minutes, finally found his voice. This is harassment. This is illegal. What's illegal is breaking into someone's house. What's illegal is destroying someone's property. What I'm doing is called consequences, and it's long overdue. The lights flickered again, and this time, they stayed off. Emergency lighting kicked in, casting everything in an eerie red glow that made the paint-covered intruders look like extras from a horror movie. Perfect ambiance, I said. Very dramatic. The viewers are loving this. Connor, please. Diane tried one last time. I know I hurt you. I know I made terrible mistakes. But this has to stop. You're destroying both of us. I'm not destroying anything. I'm revealing what was already there. You destroyed yourself the moment you decided to cheat. You destroyed Sergio the moment you dragged him into your web of lies. All I'm doing is making sure everyone can see the wreckage. Thunder crashed overhead and the emergency lights flickered. In the strobing red illumination, Diane and Sergio looked like the villains they'd always been. Exposed, defeated, utterly without dignity or hope. The show's over, I announced to my phone. Thank you all for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this glimpse into what happens when people mistake kindness for weakness. Remember, actions have consequences, and some consequences last forever. I ended the live stream and pocketed the phone. The house fell silent except for the sound of the storm and the quiet dripping of paint and rainwater. Get out, I said quietly. Both of you. Get out of my house. Get out of my town. And get out of my life. If I ever see either of you again, what happened tonight will seem like a pleasant memory. They didn't argue. They couldn't argue. They were beaten, humiliated, and utterly defeated. Diane was crying silently, her makeup running in dark streams down her paint-stained face. Sergio looked like he wanted to disappear entirely. They stumbled toward the broken window they'd entered through, leaving orange footprints on my clean floors. I watched them go, feeling nothing but satisfaction. As they disappeared into the storm, Ethan came to stand beside me. Think they'll actually leave town? He asked. They don't have a choice. After tonight, they can't show their faces anywhere in this community. Good. He looked up at me with something that might have been admiration. Mom really screwed up, didn't she? Your mother made her choices. Now she gets to live with them. Outside, the storm was beginning to subside. The worst was over. For the weather. And for me. I'd won the war that Diane had started, and I'd won it completely. She tried to destroy my life, and instead, she destroyed her own. Next time, I thought as I surveyed the paint-splattered kitchen, remind me to marry an orphan.